I'm going to call the meeting to order. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, September 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Westport Select Board. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. We are sad that we have to acknowledge the passing of two Westport legends this week. We would like to acknowledge the passing of Gary Mock. Gary Mock was 80, passed away on Sunday at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. He was the husband of Patricia Mock. He has resided in Westport since 1975. He was an electrical engineer. He loved the town of Westport and gave his support to many organizations in town over the years. He had a solar power generation business with projects in town and throughout New England. Gary passionately served the community of Westport as a member of the Finance Committee for 9 years, as a member of the Select Board for 3 years, and numerous other meeting committees and planning groups. People that met Gary knew where he stood on all things. While reputed to be stubborn, this is from his obituary, I'm not making this up. While reputed to be stubborn on some issues, he was a loyal friend to many and could be counted on to help any friend in need. His heart was as big as his personality. To many, he was simply Gary, but to the family and to close friends, he was Big Pa. And we have a list of the committees he served on for Westport. He was on the Select Board from 2007 to 2010, the Finance Committee from 1994 to 2003, the Energy Committee from 2009 to 2010, the Fire Station Building Committee from 2007 to 2009, Stormwater Management Program Committee 2007 and 2008, Joint Transportation Planning Group 2007 to 2008, Capital Improvement Planning Committee 2008 to 2009. So we'd like to extend our condolences to the Mock family. Anybody want to say anything about Gary Mock? Yeah.
Well, I think we all knew Gary. On the Finance Committee, when I first went on the Finance Committee, he took me aside and told me how to do a better job. And his advice was well taken. He was really very sincere, just like it says in the obituary, and he will be missed.
All right, so again, our condolences to his family. We'd also like to acknowledge the passing of Thomas Hancock. Thomas Hancock passed away on September 18 after a prolonged illness. He is survived by his wife of 68 years, Beverly, his daughter, Debbie, and son-in-law, Dave, his son, Dwayne, and daughter-in-law, Cheryl, 3 grandsons, and his sister. Tom was born in December 18, 1933 at Westport Point. He was a 35-year employee of the Raytheon Company serving North Dighton and Waltham. For many years, Tom served the Westport Little League as coach, manager, and umpire. He was a member of the Westport High School Hall of Fame. For many years, Tom and his family enjoyed going to Boston Red Sox spring training in Winter Haven, Florida. During Tom's retirement as chairman of the Route 88 Action Committee, he worked with a group of determined volunteers who were responsible for the installation of the Jersey barriers on Route 88. Some people might not remember, there were a lot of accidents before those Jersey barriers were included. So again, our condolences to the Hancock family. Does anybody want to?
I believe he was a parking volunteer, wasn't he? He also helped us with the parking down the beaches, but no, he was a great guy and he put a lot of effort into what he did. He'll be missed.
All right, so some sad times in Westport. We have loss of some great Westporters. Now we have time for a public hearing. I just want to point out, if anybody is here for the public hearing for Partners Village Store, that one's being continued. So is that right? So the Partners Village Store, we are not going to hear tonight. We're going to continue that to October 7. I'm assuming you're here for the first one, but I just want to, in case anybody was just hanging out for that one, we're going to skip over that one. So we have a public hearing, and the relevant parties can come forward. Application from the Packaguk Inn for an on-premise Section 12 all-alcoholic beverage license for Packaguk Inc. doing business as the Packaguk Inn, located at 2056 Main Road in Westport. Do you want to, whoever's representing? She doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. But if she's going to answer a question, she needs to be at a mic. And you do need to switch the mic to on when you're ready to.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll all be shocked to know we don't usually have this many people in attendance. Can you please introduce yourselves?
Good evening. My name is Chad Yates. I'm the attorney for the inn.
Great, thank you.
And I'm Brenda Figueredo, innkeeper. Oh,
Yeah, no, we figured out that sometimes when they're both on, there's a problem, but,
did you hear me now?
yeah, we did, you're ready to figure it out.
You maybe have one? Is that okay?
Yeah, just turn one of them off.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you. So you want to tell us what we're here for today?
Yeah, good evening. We're asking that the select board tonight grant a liquor license for a well-established inn. I'm sure you're all familiar with it down at the West Point. Really, with the letter, and I just want to sort of just jump right into what's going on here tonight. There was a previous letter for a liquor license granted from this board on July 30th, 2018. And what happened, there was a lapse during COVID, and it's really nobody's fault. I mean, COVID was happening. I know there's a lot of change in staff at the town hall, as well as the client submitting a check to the town. And now we're just trying to correct that. So as you can see, I mean, nothing's changed as far as the inn. We can address, the history of it. The inn's been a commercial business for over 100 years or more. It predates any zoning laws established here in 1957, and it's well established as a commercial place for an inn, a restaurant, as well as a bar, as long as anybody can remember here in Westport. It's well loved as a part of the community. As you can see the turnout tonight with everybody here. As you can see by the people here tonight, they'll all speak to that later, I'm sure, to address how it's a great, well-loved establishment in the Westport community. In addition, just to address septic issues, it does have a passing Title V septic. That hasn't changed from when you previously granted this liquor license back in 2018. The water was, it's on well, it's been tested annually by the owner. Again, nothing's changed as far as when you approved it prior. The liquor license has no violations on our license. It's a corporation in good standing. The fire and safety, no complaints there. There's been annual inspections. It's all been approved for a capacity of 44, and it's passed every time. So there's been no violations as far as fire and safety is concerned. Parking, it's better than it was actually passed back in 2018. The parking lot's been paved. It's also has clearly marked parking spots, which even back in 2018, that wasn't the case, and now it is today. In addition, we were looking for a liquor license. It was granted under Chapter 140 in the state chapter before. Really what we're doing is just trying to figure out how to move forward with this situation where it's lapsed. We addressed that, but as you can see, back in July 30, 2018, it was approved by this board, and we're just asking for the board to approve it again. Thank you.
So I just have a couple questions.
Yes.
So we are in receipt of a lot of material about this, and we have a whole bunch of background information. We have a bunch of letters. I'll read the names of the people that sent letters one way or the other. But so my understanding is that according to the Director of Public Health, the septic system was designed and approved for 9 bedrooms, and there's some concern about additional 79 seats for the club being needing more septic capacity. So can you just talk about that?
79 seats.
It says the septic system is designed and approved for 9 bedrooms. The proposed additional 79 seats for a club lounge would require an upgrade of the septic. So can maybe you talk about the proposed occupancy of the club?
Well, right now, we've been approved for 44 per the inspection. So, I mean, there could be some outdoors involved. There's also wedding events that might happen outside. They bring in their own vendors. Also, I mean, you could speak to this, Brenda, probably your own septic porta potties in those.
Absolutely.
In those types of situations. So, as far as annually goes, you might see 44 people there, but again, it's a small, quaint inn at the end. It's always been there. Back in 2018, there wasn't a septic problem there. It's the same septic system. We're not looking to increase the occupancy in any way. we're just looking to keep the well-established place that's been a member of the community for a long time.
And can you talk a little bit about, I think we were looking for hours. Do you have hours of operation?
Right now, I'm running 5 to 8.
5 to 8 o'clock.
Like all Monday or Sunday through Saturday, or?
No. Right now, it's 2 days a week. We'll do more later, but right now, it's just those.
If it was approved, what was your
We do
intent
more,
of hours of operation?
well-
Because that's part of the license, we have to say
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hours.
Okay, then probably, let's just say 5 days a week, and the same hours. No, we don't, we're more like a,
I get it, we have to have it, we have to have this. So are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
talking,
more like-
are you talking like Tuesday through Sunday or something?
yeah,
Like
or
where-
let's say Tuesday
or
through Sunday.
Or Wednesday, whatever.
Wednesday through Sunday.
Okay, Wednesday through Sunday.
Tuesday, we like Tuesday because nobody is available on
Okay.
Tuesday. It's
Okay.
the only time of the week.
And then I'm sure you're aware, there is some concern that, so our notice that we got from the building department, so the building inspector, the zoning enforcement officer, he talks about the increase in seating would require approval from Historical Commission and ZBA because the establishment is pre-existing non-conforming use. So are you saying that you're not intending to increase the seating?
Absolutely.
So we're not going to increase the seating. We're just asking for the established practice as we've had it.
Okay.
No increase.
Those were the questions I had. And just so everybody understands how we're going to go here, we're going to address any kind of questions from the board, and the board, and discussion from the board. I'm going to read a list of people who sent in letters of support or opposition, and then we can have people talk, but I would really recommend you keep it short if you're going to talk, because there's a lot of people. But anyone on the board?
Could you just clarify, they said 5 days, but they said Tuesday through Sunday, that'd be 6 days.
Yeah, Tuesday through,
So we're going for 6 days or 5 days?
5 days.
so Wednesday through Sunday.
So
Or
Wednesday.
you want
I
Tuesday,
thought
Tuesday
Tuesdays and
through Saturday.
Thursdays.
Let's do it.
Tuesday through Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay.
Tuesday through
Tuesday
Saturday,
through Saturday, 5 to 8 p.m.
5 to 8 p.m. So well, it's not going to turn into a nightclub till 2 a.m.
Well, you don't have to operate all of those hours, I don't think, but you can't operate outside of those
Those
hours.
hours. Okay.
Okay. And
Yeah, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming use that only your license just lapsed, and that's what you're coming to do. So you're not, what were your operating hours before?
The liquor license lapsed,
Lapsed.
but the operating license did not. The hotel license has not lapsed. It was just the liquor license.
And
So
With the liquor license, did you have-
Non-conforming use has been continuous since 1987.
and the liquor license, so what was your hours of operation on the original license?
They were the same.
Okay, yeah, because I would just say you wouldn't want to restrict you any more than what you had before, because what I'm seeing is just an oversight, right? I mean, and basically during COVID gave you some room for, I mean, I think if it lapsed during COVID,
can we just clarify when the liquor license lapsed?
This is a good question. Didn't open during COVID, so around August of that year, I called the Dottie called the ABCC, and we asked if we could reapply or whatever, just re-up it in August. They said there wouldn't be a problem as long as I sent the paperwork in, which I did. And then I went to town hall with the check for the license, the town part of the license, and that was the last I heard of it. And so I just assumed that when I gave them the check, I said to the secretary, if there's a problem, give me a call. I never heard anything. And so that was that.
So my understanding is that the license lapsed in 2020, at the end of 2020. Does that sound
So that would
correct?
be right, because
August
that,
of 20?
I think that's right.
So any operations after that fact were not licensed. So it's been 4 years since you've had a valid license at the location. So it did lapse, and I understand there's, COVID and wherever there was a mix-up, but it isn't like it just lapsed and we're extending it. It lapsed quite some time ago.
yeah, but, so the COVID extensions, have they expired?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still following some COVID rules. I mean, so they're all expired, there's no extensions on the COVID, so her time is
The
up.
COVID extensions relating to liquor licenses just had to do with having alcohol outside and some seating.
Well, this is a
changes
liquor
and things like
license and a
that.
bed and breakfast business, so
I'm-
I
I'm just trying to get the point. Somebody has
You,
something playing.
here in the back.
Somebody has something playing. If you could please check your devices. Anybody point to where it is? Okay. All right, anything else from the board? Yep.
I'd like to ask a question of the council here. The liquor license that expired, was that the so-called club license?
Correct, it was a club license.
And this is a request for an all-alcohol beverage license.
No, it's related to the hotel. So it's been in a hotel, it ends, as long as anybody can remember. It's related to that license here. There's a previous club license, but there wasn't any more licenses available. That was per the town administrator that provided for us. So we're just asking for the hotel license because that's what she's been doing the whole time anyways.
I'm a little bit not clear on this because the club license reflects a different mode of operation, only to members, whereas all alcohol would allow for the public in general. Now, I don't know if this is material because I know the Paquachuk Inn and probably be the same cast of characters.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we're looking at a very limited use between 5 and 8 p.m. You know, we're looking at a window of time of just 3 hours. In addition, it's all under Chapter 140. It's the same liquor chapter at the state as well as ABCC Section 12. So it all falls under the pouring license category here.
Yeah, and the license itself, on the application, it says on-premises type hotel category, all alcoholic beverages. So I think we might have posted it. We didn't include the hotel part when we posted it. Anything else from the board? So I want to read the names of, I'm not going to read all the letters we received. We received quite a few. But I'm going to read the names of the people who submitted letters in support of the granting of this license. Dalton Paris of Westport, Madeline Brager of Westport, Deborah Bastoni of Westport, Constance Ski of Westport, Georgiana Thomas of Westport, Sherry Burns Duncan of Westport Point, Beverly Sush who is a member of the Historic Commission, Edward Levine of Little Compton, Rhode Island, Jane Rossner of Westport, Charlie Hall, or maybe Charles, I don't know, of Little Compton, Rhode Island, Phyllis Ibbotson of Tiverton, Rhode Island, Tim Tolman of Westport, Massachusetts, Deborah Cholfie and Chris Pilkington of Westport, Richard and Cece Armstrong of Westport, and John Daly of Little Compton. And we received a letter in opposition from Carrion and Kristen Fennelly. Is there anything else from the board before we open up to the public? All right, if anybody has any public comments or statements, you can go to the microphone. I just ask you to keep to a couple minutes and no longer. And make sure you say your name. Where's Paula? Did we lose Paula?
Oh, she was stepping on.
Okay. She'll check the recording.
Good evening. My name is Dorothy Paul. I'm in a butter. I am also a retired attorney, was representing the Paquachuk Inn in the original license. So I'd first just quickly like to speak to, the community aspect of having the Paquachuk being able to operate. Westport Point can be pretty isolated in the winter. In the summer, it's a busy spot, but it gets awfully quiet, and it's quite nice to have a place where people can meet and in a quiet, friendly atmosphere. So as an abutter, I have no objection whatsoever. In fact, as I just said, I'm really in favor of it. Noise has never been an issue from there, and I'm only 2 doors away. I don't know what else the board is concerned about at this time, but I can say that the operation has been well-run when it was operating, and I hope you will be in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Beverly Shook, and I live on the Point. And, at the end of the day, it's really not about whether Brenda can serve us a glass of wine or whiskey. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's really more of a larger issue, and that's conservation of the character of the Point. It's always been run as an inn, but I don't know if any of us, even supporters of Brenda, understand the effort that it takes to maintain it and preserve it in its original intention. She has put in time, effort, ingenuity, imagination, and tons of money to keep that place going, keep it afloat, sometimes literally. And so I think that if we're in a position to help her to, fill the coffers a little bit with this initiative, doggone it, why wouldn't we do it?
Thank you.
My name's John Bullard. I'd like to speak in favor. I think it's a historic use. I serve on the planning board with Chairman Whiten, Michael Burris. After a couple of hours, the planning board dealing with the good people of Westport, be awful nice to go down to the Pocket Chuck, have a glass of bourbon, maybe two. So I think it's a historic use, well needed. I'm supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. So we were in receipt, because we had a letter from the Board of Health concerned about the septic, and we had a bunch of zoning information that was sent to us about whether it was an appropriate use. Jim reached out and got advice from council about our role in this and what we should be considering in the licensing. And Jim can keep me honest here, but the gist of it was that our approval of the license is not the same thing as the Board of Health approving the premises or the Zoning Board of Appeals approving the premises. And so it would be appropriate, if the board so chose, to grant the license, but withhold it or not issue it until the relevant boards have weighed in that it's right. You used a different word, though. What was the word you used?
I think that was the word. So if the board approved it here, it would go to the ABCC, and if they approved it prior to issuing it, there'd be sign-offs from the various departments, Board of Health, Building Department.
Right, so we could approve it, you could go through the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, and then it's not really this board's decision whether the building meets the code or is zoned appropriately, but we wouldn't issue the license until that determination had been made, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, anybody from the board have any questions about that? Anything? So what is the desire of the board?
I have one more question.
Yep.
Well, I don't understand if those other things, what they have to do with us issuing a license. Once it goes to the ABC, I mean, I don't see a problem with zoning because it's pre-existing non-conforming, and you just said you passed the Title V. So I don't see a problem with the Board of Health either.
Well, the Board of Health has some concerns about whether it's changed or not, the number of seating, and
Well, they
the
just said
zoning had some
They
concerns
just
about
said
whether
that,
it was
they
appropriate.
just said that it didn't. Everything's staying the same.
I believe them. I believe them that it's staying the same, but I can't make a decision that's the Board of Health's responsibility.
I move that we approve the license subject to obtaining all the necessary approvals from the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Board of Health, and the ABC.
Second.
Was there any discussion? Was that the way that they suggested to word it?
And they said relevant boards and officials.
I suggest, recommend approving the license, and we withhold issuing it until the boards approve it.
Will you accept that as an amendment to your motion?
Yeah, I guess it's, subject to is the same.
So can I
Just, I'm not yet. I will in a minute.
I'll accept it, but.
Okay. And you accept the second? The amendment? Go ahead.
So when we make our application to ABCC, unless we get a approval, then we're just going back to all these boards.
So I think that's why we were going to approve it.
But then so we can't go to the ABC, then we have to go to all three of those boards
No,
and
no,
then
no.
go to the license.
If it was approved the way, I think it's going to be approved, it would go to the ABCC, they would approve it. We would hold the license until those boards approved.
It's valid for the select board to vote to approve an alcohol license, but include in its vote that if approved by the ABCC, the license will be held until other relevant boards and officials have notified the board that the use is permitted. That's what our legal told us to say. Does that make sense to you, or do you want to, you don't have to move that, it does.
I mean, I read it. and
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
why
kind of what I don't understand is the use didn't lapse. just the liquor license.
And nothing changed, and so that's the thing, back in, that's why this letter's so pertinent from July 30th, 2018, is that nothing's changed since that time. It's been used, as Dorothy Paul, the former attorney, it's the same application, and nothing's changed. We'll keep the same hours, we'll keep the same days, we won't increase the size. Nothing's changed, and if it was approved back then, I believe it should be approved the same way tonight. There's still inspections that come out every year. The fire inspection comes out, everybody comes. I can just see the ABCC just saying, we're not going to do anything until these boards approve these things, because it's not a clear approval, and then we're going to be coming back here, 3 months or 6 months from now, and then meanwhile, the planning board's going to be sad because there's going to be no bourbon after their meetings, so.
Well, we have a member of the planning board who rose to speak on this.
So-
We'd like his input.
And we'll,
Yeah.
we'll come back to this, this is going to delay everything.
So I think what
This is
the
Jim Whiten, he's chair of the
Jim Whiten, I'm chair of the planning board. The zoning has not changed, and if it was okay in 2018, it should still be okay if they're saying it's exactly the same. And number two, Title V has not changed, and they're not suggesting that they're going to increase the use, which would trigger something at the Board of Health, but it's already been approved as a Title V for this volume that's required for the 9 bedrooms and the inn. I don't see why you can't just approve it myself.
Okay, thank you. Did you have more to say about that?
The application as submitted then is not valid, because it's submitted for 79 seats.
No.
Where's,
It's submitted for 79.
let's take a look at the
30 some
application.
inside- 30 some inside.
We can modify it to 44. There's outdoor seating, so go ahead.
That's what the application says.
No, but there's a drawing that has outside seating, but we've never had outside seating. We don't really have outside seating.
But that's what's being submitted.
No,
I just
and
can't
we've,
submit
and
the
we've,
application.
yeah,
like that.
we can change the wording then, because it's never meant to be 70. We don't, no, we're more like 30.
So you're asking for,
So the 44 is
44.
more than enough.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
than,
all right, so
and we can modify the application to reflect that. That's fine.
So, Mr. Dutra, do you want to vote on your motion, or do you want to amend your, or withdraw your motion or amend it? Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Just a quick thing. There's a whole history of the zoning aspect of this property, and I don't think we have to get into it tonight, but back in 2018, the building inspector recommended that it not be approved because they felt it didn't comply to zoning. And I know there's been changes, you've gone to back and forth with the zoning board, but there may still be some zoning issues. And with the septic system, was explained to me, was approved for 9 bedrooms. So any increase in flow to the 9 bedrooms, you might have to upgrade your system.
But the kind of what's relevant to us is, we're not saying whether it's appropriately zoned or not. That's not our job to determine whether it meets zoning or not. Zoning board might say that it doesn't. Just like it's not our job to say whether it meets the health standards or not, it's the Board of Health's job to do that. So I think we could approve the license, the liquor license, but it doesn't necessarily mean you could operate.
So just to clarify that, so there was, the town, I do have a new and renewal certificate of inspection, and it was done by, I can provide copies later if needed, this is also in your town records. The inspection was done by the fire department as well as the town to say that everything, as far as the inn goes, is approved. So, and I don't want to, we're commingling two different things here, right? We're saying, well, her liquor license is dependent on these other boards, but the town's already approved the inn. All we're asking for is the liquor license to go along with what she's already doing there. So and I don't want to, if she's an inn, you can't come back and say, well, she's an inn, but she can't, but now she can't be an inn because the septic's not right. The problem here is we're commingling these two things of inn and liquor license. And tonight, what we have to focus on, she's already been approved. The fire department's already come by and approved these seats for 44. We can do the application that way. It's just, if we have to go back to all these boards, when we've already been approved here, then we're just gonna put it out probably for another year.
No, I can appreciate that, but just to be clear, I'm not commingling them. I am saying that I don't know whether it meets zoning or not, and I don't know whether it meets health regulations or not. And this board doesn't have a way of knowing that. I do see you have a valid fire inspection for 44 people, and
Madam
so,
Chair.
yeah,
And that's not what's in front of us, the liquor license.
right, exactly,
We should vote
exactly.
on the liquor license. I mean.
So are you
instead of-
withdrawing your second?
Yes.
All right, so are you withdrawing your motion?
I don't, oh,
So the motion that you had was contingent upon approval of these other agencies?
yes, it was. That hasn't changed.
Okay, so is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second so the motion on the floor is to approve the liquor license for the ABCC, but I'm going to make sure I get this worded right,
on the first-
to hold the license until other relevant boards or officials have notified that the use is permitted.
If you want to make it simpler so that this doesn't drag on forever, we could notify the other boards that we'd like to have their comments regarding the status of their license and approvals by our next meeting. I mean, they meet, they have staff. This is not rocket science.
All right, so there's the motion and a second. Go ahead.
Hey, just board, just for a minute. I'm just questioning, has the select board ever done this before in the hearings for liquor licenses?
Ever what?
Ever made that kind of a contingent approval? Because I think this is not appropriate for this board to be putting those contingencies on the liquor license. And I'm asking, historically, has this board ever done that before?
So I don't know about ever, but I know that we typically have the zoning and the building and the health inspection prior to issuing them.
Right, but you've got them, because this was.
What I have from
prior
the health
license.
official is that it is not sized appropriately, and what I have from the building official is that it would require approval. But that was based on the increasing the seating.
Right, which wasn't
So the
Not part of the
application needs to be
application.
amended.
exactly.
And just going back to the letter from July 30th, 2018, there's no conditions on it. I mean, you're seeing everything the same in front of you that they saw back in 2018, and they approved it because it was grandfathered in. So we're not asking for anything different, other than the fact that now you're going to make conditions which may hold up the ABCC license, then it will be in this process for a long time.
Did you include a copy of the license in our packet? I didn't notice it. The ABCC license, do we have that?
We have the license.
I didn't
You
notice
have
it.
the license in your files.
We have like a zillion things in here.
Yeah, but
The
I didn't see
application or the,
ABCC No, I didn't see the approved ABCC license.
well, they're asking us to approve it so they can go
Talking
to
about the one that
ABCC.
we're basing
Oh,
our
the
decision on the
previously
past.
approved. I didn't see that one. So I personally am going to vote no on this motion because I actually think it would be better to have a clean vote, to vote to approve the license by itself, and then other boards can, whether your operation or not is not my decision whether those other things are true or not. So I'm going to vote no, but.
What is relevant here, I think, is the decision we made in, I think it was 2018, when we licensed for wine and malt liquor the oyster establishment, Westport Sea Farms. My recollection, and people can take issue with me, is we did not require what's in this motion for that. We had a discussion back and forth, and we decided, rightly or wrongly, that those other departments do have authority to weigh in at the appropriate time under their authority. But we went ahead and approved that license without those other stipulations. So I will be with you and vote against this motion because it requires something that we did not require of the neighboring business on the point.
Is there any more discussion on the?
We didn't acquire any approval? I thought we had to wait for the seating on that. Maybe the Fennellys can clarify it, but it was just a straight-out license. I thought we had to go through the seating. We didn't have to?
I don't think so.
All right.
Is there any further discussion?
So we're voting, we're going to vote against this
A yes vote would mean that you want to put the stipulation that we have to have the other board's approval before we issue the license.
And what does a no vote do?
A no vote means nothing, but I assume there would shortly follow another motion.
Okay. That's what I'm asking.
Is there anything else? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so that was all 5 nays.
We tried
right?
following our legal's attorney.
All right.
Now we can move on.
Can I have another motion, please?
Motion approved without stipulations.
You're moving to approve the license with the amendment to 44 seats.
Yeah.
As is submitted with amendments.
Yep.
Just a quick question, those 44 just inside, nothing outside?
That's right.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Good luck with the ABCC. I just want to ask everybody, we have really cool stuff on our agenda, and you are all Westport residents, so you are
They wanna
welcome
go
to
drinking.
stay. But please do not congregate in the hallway and talk, because we can hear you. If you're going to talk, please go outside or downstairs.
Thank you.
On a point.
She doesn't have a license yet.
Bring your own.
Guys are nervous for a moment. They're moving as they're talking.
I was thinking that. So I just want you to know that all those ratings.
Michael, you gonna rough them
They're
up?
congregating in the hallway.
They're moving though, they're moving. Yeah, they're making an effort.
All right, the next item on the agenda, as I mentioned before, the application from Lydia Gallner for an on-premise seasonal wine and malt beverage license for Partners Village Store at 865 Main Road, Westport, Mass. So they have a request to continue to October 7, 2024.
Is that a hearing? Do we need to vote on it?
It's a hearing, so we need to vote.
So the date certain, the time certain, I'm sorry.
6:05.
You said the date.
6:05 on October 7th.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from the Holy
Can't
Ghost.
shut it all the way. Chris,
You can't shut it all the way
It's
because
open
it's an
meeting.
open meeting. You can shame them into talking.
Yeah.
We have a request from the Holy Ghost Club to transfer the October 5, 2024 one-day liquor license to October 26 for a fundraiser from 12 to 5 p.m. This is pretty typical request from Holy
And
Ghost.
police approved, right?
Is police approved?
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have so now we're on appointments and resignations. We have a request from the Cultural Council to appoint Carolyn Edwards. Is there anyone here who wants to talk about that?
I move approval of Carolyn Edwards to the Cultural Council.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Michael Burris. Did you want to talk about this one? Okay. We have a request from Michael Burris, the town planner, to appoint Steve Fors to the short-term rental committee. Is there anyone who wants to talk about that? Okay.
I'll move them.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to accept the resignation of the assistant planner, Amy Messier, effective September 21, 2024.
Move, send a letter of regrets. Thank you for service.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. We do have a little bit lower in the, a posting for that position, but on the agenda. We have a request from Beverly Bish, the Council on Aging Director, to appoint Thomas Wood as a part-time maintenance specialist. Did you want to talk about this? You just want to see if we have questions? No? They're good? Okay. They are here. Okay.
We made it, okay.
Good evening.
You gotta-
all the way up.
Come all the way to the chair.
Good thing you brought him, because he's gonna be mistaken for Tom Auburn walking around.
Hey,
I waited for people to tell
There you
me
go.
that, so.
Beverly, you want to, so this is Beverly Bish, the Council on Aging Director, and I'm assuming you're Thomas Wood? Yes. Okay, welcome. You want to tell us what this is about, Beverly?
Sure, Tom applied to us back in December for a driver's position. And of course, it takes many, many months to get the driver's training done because the training sometimes isn't until, like it's in northern Massachusetts or western Mass or whatever. So we've been trying and trying. And then I had a resignation for my maintenance person. And I called him and I said, "Are you interested? Is it something you would do?" And he said, "Absolutely, that would be even better for me." And I said, "Okay, come on." And we already had all the references. Corey, like everything was already done. He's got a good background with mechanical and crafts. And he was also a Department of Corrections officer for many years and retired. So he retired, so I think he can hold his own with all of our seniors.
Keep everyone in line.
So, so I asked him, and he said yes, and I'd like to have him appointed by this board.
How's your back for shoveling snow? Is it all right? All right. Well, if you're ready for it, we won't get it. That's why I'm asking. All right, I'll move him.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? Anything you want to say? No?
No, I'm retired and I need, something to do.
You busy? Yeah.
Okay.
Something to do.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
you.
They're ready.
I don't remember. Who seconded? Dick? We're screwing her up because like
I
different
know.
people are moving and seconding. That hard on the note taker. Is there anything you want to quickly mention that's going on in the Council on Aging?
Oh, there's just a lot of stuff going on, grants, DOT, they're doing another federal grant, and it's actually, I just did a Zoom meeting for training, and it's a federal grant that is going to give us operating money. I hate doing those federal grants, though. I honestly do. They are awful with the paperwork and the stuff you have to do after the fact, but I'm still thinking transportation with the possibility of the budget being cut and everything. I've gotten two transportation grants, two $10,000 transportation grants over the last couple of years, and I really would like to beef it up and see if we can't get more, so that way I can work with Jim in the town on possibly cutting budget. Grants recently, and then we also have a principal clerk's position, because the principal clerk moved over to the library, and John, the maintenance person, moved over to the library. For John, it was a lot of medical, because it was up and down the stairs. It was a lot for him. He was getting older, and he had some medical issues, so this works out perfectly.
All right, great. Well, thank you for what you're doing over there.
Just wanted to say one more thing.
Sure.
I used to coach on that, right? That's
right, a few years ago.
When the kids were like 11, I'm like, holy, now they're 31, I'm like,
They're
oh my God.
All right, well, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
We have lurkers in suits out there.
Yeah.
We have a request from Police Chief Christopher Dunn to appoint Javier Rosa as a full-time officer, and
Let him say it.
Luis Bertentes as full, actually, we had it messed up on the agenda.
So it's,
Why don't you tell us who we're appointing?
Sure, so the first request is for Louis Vitentes for contingent offer of employment for full-time police. So as the board's aware, we're budgeted for 31, we're at 25 police officers. Over the summer, the town and the police union came to an agreement in their contract where they can open up police officers not residing in our community up to 15 miles. So because of that, we submitted, we did some advertising, and we were very happy with the amount of applicants we got, as well as the experience and the quality of applicants. So I'm respectfully requesting a contingent offer of employment for Louis Vitentes. He's been a police officer in the city of Fall River since 2014. His last assignment being a detective in Major Crimes Unit for 7 years. Detective Vitentes brings extensive experience in policing with a strong background in investigation in a wide range of crimes. Furthermore, Detective Vitentes holds a bachelor's degree from UMass Lowell. He's a combat veteran who served in the U.S. Army operating during Freedom. He lives in Westport with his wife, and they're expecting their second child. So if approved, I'm respectfully requesting an effective date to be Sunday, October 6th.
And is Mr. Vicente here?
Yes.
Or what's the appropriate address for him?
He'll be officer as of October 6th.
Okay, you're not officer yet. So anything you want to say before we? No? Okay.
Any other training needed, or he's all set? He's ready to rock?
He's all set. Yeah, we just have to do the background and the psychological, which we'll do
Right.
before October 6th. And then
But no academy and everything, he's all set, right?
full-time academy since 2014. So that's
Nice.
good.
Okay, very good. If nobody has anything, I'll move him.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Welcome aboard.
Yes, thank you for bringing him in, too, Chief. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. And
Very excited to have him.
who else
job.
have you got?
Yeah.
So it's for a contingent offer of employment for reserve police officer for Javier Rosa and Clinton Silverio. Since police reform, we've lost several reserve police officers due to the requirements that they have to annually uphold. Mr. Rosa and Mr. Silverio have completed, Mr. Rosa completed academy through Fall River. Mr. Silverio completed academy, what's called the Bridge Academy, through the Sheriff's Office to the Municipal Training Council. So they're both full-time academy qualified. They want to come on as reserve police officers. Mr. Rosa was a police officer for 4 years. He's serving the uniform division. He resigned from the Fall River Police Department to pursue a career in photography and cinematography. He lives in Fall River. Mr. Silverio was a retired deputy sheriff with the Bristol County Sheriff's Office, serving over 20 years. His last assignment being a lead and fireman instructor for his agency. He resides in Dartmouth with his 2 sons and his wife. You know, in our interview, it was conveyed that, you know, it's not just going to be expected to work road jobs, construction jobs, but, you know, we have a need during polling. We have a need during town meeting. We have a need during beach patrol for the summer instead of hiring full-time police officers. And they're both more than willing to step up and help us out with that. So,
Excellent. Do you have-
I'm sorry.
Are any of them here?
Yes, they're both here.
They're both here.
Clinton Silverio and Javier Rosa.
Very good. No issue with availability? You know, we got problems with the mids to eights and everything. They got good availability?
Yes, they do have very good availability.
I'll move them. Thank you for coming in, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the appointments. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, both
Yeah.
appointments?
Yeah.
Yes,
You'd
this
like
is
us
for-
to separate them?
We need to
No,
clarify.
There's for the reserve.
I have no
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
So the
didn't give you
date,
the date certain.
the date would be Sunday, October 6th as well. And this is a contingent offer of employment for a reserve police officer for both Mr. Rosa and Mr.
I
Silverio.
didn't make a date certain on the first one. Do I need to clarify that? or-
Yeah, I guess it would.
All right.
All right, so let's do these two.
Okay.
So these two,
Subject for October 6th.
October 6th, reserve police officer appointments for these two.
Correct.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. And then just amend the
Clarify the
previous,
first officer's
clarify the
name.
previous.
So Detective Officer Louis Vitentes, October 6th of 2024.
Yep, I'll move October 6th. I failed to put that in the motion.
I'll accept the,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, anything else you want to share while you're here?
We just had a good summer, I should say, with not a lot of incidents, which is great. I really appreciate what the officers and dispatchers have done this summer, considering we were at 25 police officers. We're looking forward to the fall with some events. Officer Fernandez with his comfort dog had a little setback, but he's back on the mend, so we can hopefully get him out there as well. Yep, we should be there for touch truck. There's a few community engagements we're going to be definitely doing coming up in the fall.
Great, all right, thank you, Chief.
Could you just clarify what positions are still open, if any, between dispatch all across the board?
So we have one dispatch position that's open. We have we now have 5 open full-time police officer positions. However, we have 2 that are in the academy that are graduating tentatively in end of January. So technically, we have 3
Three open.
openings.
Thank you.
And I just, reserve officers don't have vehicles, but these are the first appointments we had that aren't Westport residents. But I just want to
Sure.
reassure the public that the vehicle policy will be looked at if we have a full-time officer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, Mr. Fidentes lives in town, so that's not going to be an issue. But if there's an officer that we might hire later on that does not reside in the community, I'm not, if they live very far outside of our community, meaning they live in Fall River, Somerset, Swansea, I am not apt to give them a take-home cruiser. I do not want anything to potentially happen or that they observe while traveling.
All right, anything else for the chief? All right, thank you. Thank you for coming in, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming in.
Appreciate it. Make us proud, gentlemen.
I hope you're very slow and bored most of the time. We want the police department and the fire department to be bored. We have a request from Michael Burris. This time, I think you probably do need to come forward. The town planner to post the assistant planner position. Welcome. So we have
Thank you.
Michael Burris and then Jim
And-
Whiten, the chair of the planning board.
Yes, so Amy's last day was on Friday, and we're looking to get this position posted as soon as possible. So typically, the planning board's agenda is completely full in most of our meetings. And I'm sure you're familiar with what we had the assistant planner doing, which was the development review, subdivision, site plan, stuff like that. So I want to talk a little bit about what I've been doing, since I do more things on the back end. That's not so readily apparent. So I'm coming up on my 2 years with Westport here in October. In that 2 years, I've coordinated or directly applied for 23 different grant applications, 13 of which have been funded to the tune of $1.4 million, and 3 are outstanding to the tune of $4.2 million if those grants receive funding. I've got a project on the tip, also looking, the Transportation Improvement Program, also looking to have a little bit of an ambitious rollout of our complete streets, which I don't really have time to do because I have, at any given time, 12 different projects that I'm working on, 3 of which are I'm helping Chris Capone out, 4 of which are more public works related projects. If we had a public works department, it probably wouldn't be, those probably wouldn't be in the planning office. I've also got a grant application that I've coordinated with Dartmouth and Little Compton. That one's outstanding, and I'm going to be facilitating the online permitting for every single department. I've made a commitment to every department that they'd like me to sit down with them and help them through that process. You know, if they want me there, I'll be there for them to work that out. And so the project-based work and grants is probably like 80% of my workflow, and then the other 20% would be customer service, administrative work, and helping the assistant planner out reviewing projects. So this is easily, 40 hours a week for me, probably more if I really had another person. And so that's what I'm looking for in posting this position. It's not someone who can only do development review, but is also interested in doing more project-based work to help out with some of this grant administration. So there's lots of work to be done.
All right, thank you. So I know this position has been a bit controversial, and I support this, just to be clear. I support hiring the assistant planner, but Jim, I wonder if you can maybe talk a little bit. We have in the past not funded this when we've had budget problems, or I think we delayed getting this position and because of budget problems. I think it is likely that we will continue to have budget problems going into the next year. So I'm just wonder if we've kind of considered whether we want to, or maybe why would we want to fill the job and when we could potentially hold off?
So, excuse me, when Amy was here, I think the planning board, with Nadine, Amy, and Michael, has been extraordinary from my perspective. I've been on the planning board for 18 years. I don't know why, but
We're glad to have you.
but I have. And during the last 2 years when Michael has been here, we're running on all cylinders. We're really doing a lot for the town, and I don't want to go back. I mean, it took 16 years to get this contingent funded. We've been through the 2008 financial thing where we had an assistant planner, not a planner. Then we had Jim Hartnett, who was great, but then you stole him. And so we have finally gotten a full contingent, and it's amazing what they've been able to do for Westport. And if we don't get it, we won't be able to do things like try to help the Climate Resilience Committee go through all their stuff, help Chris Gonzalez do the MS4 stuff. We just won't have time to do all that stuff. So we really need to repopulate this position with a really good candidate if we can find one. And it's not going to be easy finding one. So I don't think, if we post next week, I can't see anybody starting before sometime in January, because it takes a long time to get this thing posted out in the world, interviewed, and then whoever it is has got to deal with whatever they're doing now and get here. So that portion of Amy's salary will go back into the general fund. We're not going to spend that. But we really need to fund this.
Oh, thank you. Anyone from the board?
Yeah, again, and Mike's only touching the tip of the iceberg. He's done a great job when he's been here. We can't take away from the grants and stuff he's been writing. We need to put the person in this position. We have no choice. I mean, the stuff with the bottomless culverts on Drift Road and all that stuff you're working on, we got to continue. We can't stop.
Anything else from the board? Mr. Bullard?
Madam Chair, John Bullard, and I also serve on the planning board, and I just want to make a couple of remarks in support of posting this position now. And I echo the chairman's remarks that we're operating on all cylinders. I echo his remarks because he's the chair, and I always echo his remarks. It's, I think, in the bylaws of the planning
bet that's
board
not
that
true.
I do that. But I want to be candid about some things, and that is that right now, this is a very dynamic situation that we're in for a number of reasons. One, it's very good because the team we had assembled, Michael and Amy, Nadine, on the staff, is going gangbusters, and we have an enviable department. And so when you post a position, you're posting a position in a department that people are, and this isn't the only posting, there are a lot of openings around here. So it's a competitive situation. But people are going to look at Westport and say, there's a lot going on in the town of Westport. And so, so it's an attractive place to want to work right now. There is a lot of forces at work. Let me tick off a few. We all know that there's a lot of growth here. And the train hasn't started yet, but it's about to. So the growth pressures that we handle every other Tuesday are only going to accelerate. So the demands on the planning board are going to get more, not less. That's one amount. The mayor of New Bedford said he has to find 7,000 housing units to deal with the housing cost. And his point is, why should the city of New Bedford have to do that themselves? This has to be a regional issue of addressing what is really a statewide, everyone knows it, it's in the papers all the time, the housing crisis. We've got to create housing everywhere. And there's resistance everywhere. That's also in the news every day about how do we create housing in places where there's resistance. That's a planning issue. How do we do that, maintaining the character of the town we love? There was, I don't know how many of you read New Bedford Light, but there was an excellent article by Adam Goldstein about wastewater costs from Wareham, Dartmouth, New Bedford, Westport. The general gist of that article was these costs are beyond any single town's ability to pay, and of course we know that personally from our inability to get the taxpayers in Westport to shoulder the cost. There's a session tomorrow sponsored by New Bedford Light at Kilburn Mill on these regional costs of wastewater. Bob Daler is representing Westport on that panel, but there are representatives, Mr. Almy from Dartmouth, et cetera. How do we get the money to do this? Grantsmanship. And Michael Burris has been superb at that. And we have a tremendous asset in the Senate Chair of Ways and Means. And so the ability to figure out how do we work with an asset like Senator Roderick's is key. Now, the point I want to make is we have the ability, if we post this position right now, to keep this really good team together. But if we don't post it, it's not necessarily just going from 3 to 2. There's a risk that, we go from 3 to 1 because you can burn people out. And so that's a risk I think you have to really think about. And the pressures on us are extraordinary, but we've got a great team. And we're up to it. And we've got an attractive position to post because of what this team is doing right now. And I mentioned the three, Michael, Nadine, and Amy. But also, when you look at the talent you've got in the chair, Jim Whiten, in a guy like Bob Daler, what do we pay Bob?
0.
0. Oh, yeah, one of the best engineers in the country, We have a really good team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any, what's the pleasure of the board?
No, I'd just like to summarize. Michael, you're an excellent employee, and we don't want to lose you. Like a lot of our other town leaders, I think you're doing a great job, and we need to give you the tools, so I'll move posting it.
Second.
Is this a union position or no?
This is not a union.
Not a union. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the posting.
I just have a question. What other important positions do we not have bodies in?
Well, we're
It's just
missing
the
3 police
engineer.
officers.
Police officers, fire, engineers, highway department,
Who wants to address that? We have openings
list,
in,
a lot of spots.
But like equally important, like, did Jim need an assistant? Because I understand there's a great.
Jim could
board.
probably use an assistant. He doesn't currently have one.
Yes. So there's quite a few positions, right? We put an engineer in the budget this year. I've been kind of holding off on that because we won't know for a month or two to where we are next fiscal year, and I don't know if we're going to be able to maintain that position the following year. We put in money for a computer part-time. I think that one, I'd like to move forward with that one. Police department, like he said, he's at 26 right now, and he's funded for 31. I've actually talked to him, and I said, you may want to keep 1 or 2 of those positions open so that we do not have to lay off next year. And, we haven't had to the last few years. I'm hoping we can get away with another year. Fire department, they had a request, going back 5-10 years, that they were going to fill an additional position, get up 4 more. I think we've gotten 2 of those, so they're still down 2 positions. My office, obviously, we could use some additional help. Most towns have a procurement, personnel department, financial.
HR.
Yeah, I mean,
We're also have later on this agenda to an administrative assistant for the highway department too, so,
if the
So
board
yes, there's quite a few.
yeah.
works great, maybe you might want to put that somewhere else. That, in a board or somewhere that's not working so great.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the posting. Is there, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Do you have anything else on the agenda tonight? No. Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Jim, you going Wednesday?
Keep up the good work.
That meeting that the previous speakers mentioned is not tomorrow, it's on Wednesday. We have
You were talking
a,
about, sorry, the meeting you were talking about is Wednesday, John. He only caught the end of it, I think.
the meeting you said that was tomorrow is on Wednesday. Act 4B, request to approve the letter of agreement with the General Teamsters Local Union Number 251. Jim?
Yes, we had talked about this in executive session. This would increase the salary slightly for the E911 dispatches, which we've had a very difficult time holding on to because other communities are paying much more. It would also increase the salary, the hourly rate of the local building inspector, which would be the assistant to the building inspector. We put it out for a job posting about 3 months ago. I don't think we received 1 application, that was it. So it would make those 2 changes, and also it would increase the raise for FY '26 from 2.5% to 3%, which is consistent with the other unions.
And this is just for 1 year, right?
This is just, yes,
Right.
1 year, FY '26.
All right, so we have discussed this in executive session. Is there any comments or questions?
I'll move it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
that's unanimous. We have a request to approve the town administrator contract. So we circulated this after the meeting. I asked if anybody wanted to speak in executive session about it, and I didn't hear any, so here we are. So what's the pleasure of the board on the town administrator contract?
I'll move it with the amended items. We're ready to move it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'll move it.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the town administrator contract. That does have really the only change there was a change to the reference of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board, and there was a small increase in salary. That was really the only change.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Chris Gonsalves, the highway surveyor, to approve administrative assistant dispatcher position, job description, and then to post the position. So Jim, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, last year, we had actually discussed this with the select board about updating, upgrading the existing position, which would make it consistent with the other assistant clerks here within town hall. So it would be the assistant town clerk, treasurer, planning, building, board of health. So it increases the salary by about $1 an hour for the position. Right now, we have an employee in there that's on leave, who's currently working part-time, 10 to 20 hours a week from home. We just need somebody in that office to cover. So we're looking to create this new position and fill it as soon as we can. We're hoping we can get some cross-training over the next couple of months, which would help out the highway surveyor significantly. So I would recommend that we approve of the new position and post the position.
And I just want to mention, so this position is mentioned the next item after this is the ASME contract. So is this position a union position in that contract?
It is a union position.
It's a union position, and it's included in the contract
included
provisions
in
that
the
we made for them.
contract,
And then there's no additional budget required for this fiscal year?
There is not.
Okay. Any other?
And we're good with personnel board?
This is
The
union,
union,
so
so
we
it's
do.
not.
So it doesn't have to touch yours. Okay, I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to approve the ASME Council 93 Local 1701 contract. We have been discussing this in executive session, and it's final and ready to go, right?
Yeah, the board approved the memorandum of agreement a couple of months ago, and this is just the final wording of the contract. Nothing has changed, except for that one position from the MOA that was approved by the board.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. We have a request to approve the Westport Police Association contract. This is another one.
Again, this is another one, the board approved the memorandum of agreement probably about a month and a half ago, and this mirrors what the memorandum of agreement, what was stated in the memorandum of agreement. I'd recommend approval.
Move it.
Second.
So a motion is second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. We have a request to create an offshore wind committee and to approve the proposed charter of the committee. So we had a draft in your packet of a possible committee charter. We talked about the fact that we want to make sure that we are charging the committee with doing something and not just randomly having them work on stuff. So Craig, I know you had a chance to review it, and I know you had some changes, but I don't know what they were. Do you want to speak to that?
I put them in writing, but first of all, we make reference to offshore wind developers, and I'd want to add and operators, because we are dealing with, but we'll be dealing with both companies that want to do something with respect to developing offshore wind, and we do have companies that may or may not having an impact on Weston that currently operate offshore wind facilities. So I want to add that. Second thing is, I'd like to limit the membership of the committee to 9. And if you begin to add up all the entities that we want to appoint people to it, as well as the at-large members, I would suggest one way to try to get to that is we're going to be limiting some of the at-large, but I would eliminate the finance committee, because it's a board that does not require, in its present vision, an appropriation, and we really don't have the space for the finance committee, as the other committees that are referenced in the description have missions that are more pertinent to interaction with the committee. you see that?
So, yeah, so right now we have proposed the Select Board, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Economic Development Task Force, Shellfish Advisory, Climate Resiliency, Westport River Watershed Alliance, and Protect Our Waters Westport, and 2 at-large. So you're suggesting we remove Finance Committee. He's not in the room now. I actually think we could probably remove the Climate Resilience Committee because I think these other groups kind of represent them pretty well. If you keep the Westport River Watershed Alliance and the Protect Our Waters Westport, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 9, that would allow 2 at-large members.
That was the purpose of doing
Okay, and then I was trying to find where you said that, it talked about offshore wind development, but I'm trying to see, oh, wind developers, here's, that's where it is.
it. And operators.
Yeah, you want to add the and operators. So just want to talk about the purpose for those of you who don't have the meeting material in front of you. So the purpose that's proposed is the Offshore Wind Advisory Committee's mission is to advise the Select Board on matters related to offshore wind development, specific to industry impacts on the town of Westport, both nearshore and onshore, and to represent the best interests of the Westport constituency to wind developers and operators. Committee meetings will serve as public forum to provide residents and property owners with information about offshore wind relevant to Westport, project status, and the means to offer input into official deliberations between the town and wind companies. So I just want to be clear, the committee is going to advise the Select Board. They're not going to be making decisions, although I'm sure they will make decisions on what to advise us of. The scope would be understanding the scope and specifics of any project that names Westport as a potential location. And there's a kind of list of onshore high voltage cabling, electromagnetic field radiation, modern cable trenching, migratory species impacts. There's kind of a list. Looking at the content and parameters of other municipalities' host community agreements. So we don't have any proposed host community agreements, but if one should arise, they would be evaluating the other ones.
That was another suggestion. I think we should delete good neighbor agreements and just stay with host community. Because there's a general understanding of what a host community agreement is. Good neighbor is rather squishy, in my opinion.
So we have evaluating local environmental, economic, or visual impacts, determining appropriate project mitigation measures to offset perceived and assessed impacts, such as the establishment of a trust fund or bonding, negotiating for tangible community benefits or other economic development arrangements, and making recommendations to the Select Board. We also had in here proposed responsibilities for the chair and committee members. There was a thing in here about frequency. So I don't know if I think it's good that we have a frequency in the charter, but I think it should be every other month is what I think it should be, or as needed if there's more, because right now we don't really have a whole lot in front of us.
I don't think we've ever specified before, so.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. I'll get to you in a second. And then the quorum would be, if it was a 9-member board, then it would be 5 for a quorum. And then it just talks about decisions to bring majority vote of those present is provided there's a quorum. We also never really said that they would provide a written report. I think a written report to the Select Board quarterly is a bit much, personally, but maybe yearly.
Yeah, annual. That's consistent with other committees.
And then we're not going to have a budget, so there would be no budget to support the. I'm assuming if some big project came around, we would have to appropriate funding for, project management or whatever.
The host city agreement would probably provide money for some of that.
Yeah. So those were the changes that I know that Craig and I had looked at it more extensively. Did anybody else have any proposed changes after looking at? Yeah.
I was just curious about this. We have Protect Our Waters, POW, as at-large. That's not going to be at-large. It's going to be a member from that group. So there's 2 at-large positions, or is there one now?
Group?
It is. They're an official group. Yeah.
And then 2 at-large.
Yeah. So right now we're at Select, Planning, Conservation, Economic Development, Shellfish, Westport River Watershed Alliance, Protect Our Waters Westport, and 2 at-large.
Now, I think I mentioned this to Jim, and I think I saw something in our packet, but 2 at-large, 2 at-large, 2 at-large. Is that, is that what you mean?
It is. There was a thing in here about frequency. So I don't know if we, I think it should be every other month is what I think it should be, but, or as needed if there's more, because right now we don't really have a whole lot in front of us.
in selecting members of the committee, we'd also have to be very careful that we're not creating inadvertently a committee that, within its constitution, requires multiple boards hosting that meeting. We have that with one committee right now, and I'd like to see that be the exception rather than the new rule.
I think we can accomplish that by not appointing a quorum of another board, yeah.
We could actually maybe potentially reject somebody saying, we've already had 2 people from this committee, but one's wearing another hat.
I think we should look at appointments more that way, because you're right, it kind of creates a logistical problem to have quorums of other bodies, yeah.
Yep.
All right, anything else from the board? Ms. Gee?
I'd like to speak to the frequency of the meetings. I'm hoping that that this committee will meet monthly instead of, when you said bi-monthly, you meant every 2 months, is that correct?
I meant every other month.
Every other month, right.
That's what I meant, but.
Right. I just think there's probably, I know that there is a lot of information. I think it's going to take a while just for the committee to sort of get on the same page with sort of what's happening out there and what may or may not be proposed, but what they're doing at this point. And I think it would be a mistake to wait until they were knocking at our door and saying, we'd like to make a deal, to then sort of go, okay, now what is it we're doing here? I think it would probably benefit the committee to get together and discuss some matters and be ready to move should that happen.
I'm actually okay with monthly personally. But. All right, so what do we think? I think those edits that we made are, I mean, obviously we need to reword them, but I know you had talked about forming the committee later, but I think these edits are pretty minor. So I'm going to move that we create the committee as described.
Second.
Can you just clarify, so what did you leave the meetings at? Are you leaving it
Monthly.
in there? All right,
I'm
so we're
leaving
gonna leave it monthly?
I would lift it to monthly.
Oh, one more thing, but
Yeah.
just delete any named individuals in
Yeah.
the proposal.
Yeah, I deleted it in the one in the packet, but, yeah, so we haven't, yeah, so no named individuals. We'll appoint people at the following meeting. Right? So we have a motion and a second to approve the committee as described, the committee and the charter as described. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. All right, thank you. We have a request from the beach committee. We closed the door. I can't tell if Sean Leach is lurking out there.
It's open a crack.
Can everybody open the doors? The doors kind
It's
of.
not completely closed.
Sean Leach is frequently lurking out there when he comes. All right, so we have a request from the beach committee to approve the purchase and sale agreement for land located at 0 West Beach Road, the assessors map 91, lots 29 and 30. Do you want to tell us what this is about, Jim?
Yeah, so this is a small parcel on Cherry and Webb, in the area where Westport residents sit when they go to Cherry and Webb Beach. It's been in the family, the Briggs family, for a number of years. They're looking to sell it to the town. This went before town meeting in May of this past year, and it was recommended for approval, so we just got the purchase and sales agreement. This has been funded for about, I think, roughly $10,000 is the purchase price, to be paid for through the Cherry and Webb Beach Enterprise account, so it wouldn't come out of the operating budget. The purchase and sales agreement has been signed by the owner, and I recommend approval. It's consistent with what town meeting voted for.
Right.
Pitches above our head, I'll move it.
Second.
Is it about the existing property, the existing town property? I don't think so.
It does, at least on the north. There's a paper street there.
Yeah, okay.
And then on the other side is town property.
All right. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Now we have a discussion, we have a request from Donna Amaral, a Board of Health member, to discuss the Massachusetts opioid abatement terms and strategies.
When you get a minute. Oops, it fell off.
I also have somebody with me.
Back up.
Beautiful, look at that. Oh, modern technology. Perfect. Thank you for having us. I'm Donna Amaral from the Board of Health. I'm also a clinical nurse specialist in psychiatric nursing.
My name's Olive Wachurski, and I am the Shared Services Coordinator for the South Coast Public Health Collaborative, with the lead community being Westport.
So we're here to highlight the opioid settlement funds and the use that the town has been tasked with to develop a plan to distribute those funds. It was clear to me in our town meeting that people in town didn't even know about the settlement fund, and we had to vote on moving and creating an individual fund. So that has been done. Now the task is to develop a plan and use the funds to support people in the community. So we're here primarily to educate the community and the select board about the abatement agreement that will direct and guide the decision-making. And also looking at how we use the funds for prevention, harm reduction, recovery, and family support, individual and family support. The other goal of being here this evening is to have the select board create an advisory committee to begin the work to get the information that's needed to make decisions. So as we point out, Olive is going to point out some statistics first.
Sure. So first of all, I would like to say I'm going to mention some data here, but all of these numbers are people, and I think that that needs to be respected. These are all loved ones that families here have lost. So I'm sure we all know that the opioid epidemic is running rampant throughout Massachusetts and the country. Opioid-related overdose deaths in Massachusetts increased by 2.5% in 2022 compared to 2021. In Massachusetts, there were 2,125 confirmed and estimated opioid-related overdose deaths in 2023. That same data reported that there were 45 recorded overdose deaths between 2015 and 2023 in Westport. So that might not sound like a huge number, but again, that's 45 families who have lost someone to overdoses. These funds are really important because direct investments in evidence-based community strategies are critical to effectively responding to saving lives and helping to improve this crisis.
Okay, so the Commonwealth and its municipalities have shared commitment to using the abatement funds, as I said before, for recovery, for prevention, for risk reduction. And I wanted to be noted.
Oh, yeah, turn that mic on. If it,
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. And so I want it to be noted, I think that you all received, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the abatement terms, but note the first statement in the abatement terms. It reflects the input of our communities, of people who have personal experience with the opioid crisis, of experts in treatment and prevention, and of staff and organizations that are carrying out the abatement work. To my knowledge, that has not been done yet. And part of the requirement is that we include community involvement and input. That it addresses mental health concerns and conditions that directly impact substance use disorders, and it encourages innovation, filling gaps, but not replacing existing programs. And I don't know of existing programs in Westport, but to add to, create all those entities that will meet the needs of harm reduction, risk reduction, and support in recovery.
I would also like to add, we don't want to duplicate efforts, so that's why it's important that we have this committee making these decisions instead of decisions being made behind the scenes, because we want to make these funds go as far as they possibly can. So as you can see, according to the public record, as of September 1st, Westport has received over $300,000 in opioid settlement funds. We can go to the next slide. And from 2022 until 2038, we are approximately going to receive over $1 million. But again, this is only going to happen if we follow the terms of the abatement agreement and if we report correctly to the state on the activities that we're completing.
And there's legitimate concern that if the abatement terms are not met, we will not continue to receive funds. So that is a major concern of mine, that we're doing what we're supposed to do in order to continue to receive money to help people in the community. So there are some proposed areas of focus. One of my favorites is school department. To support access to mental health services for young people, including any kind of programming in the school system that they could benefit from, in supporting families. We want to include fire and fire department and safe stations. We want to engage nonprofits. So in order for all this work to get done, you need to have people who are actually making those wheels turn and making decisions about what would be the best use and practices, right? And so having professionals involved in this on a committee, having people with lived experience on a committee. We did a presentation in May, and there was a speaker who was a former teacher at the Westport school system who lost her son to an overdose. So that's the kind of input we think is really important for us to best utilize the funds. And there's many more. A lot of these are pulled from the abatement agreement.
Mm-hmm. And again, we're not saying that these are going to be exactly what we're going to be doing, because the committee will be deciding that, hopefully. We don't want to dictate that. But these are some example projects that could take place.
You want to wait till the end on questions, or do you want?
Yeah, see, they only have one more.
Yeah, we're almost done.
We're trying to be prompt.
No, that's okay. So safe stations is an example. So this is something that has been implemented in several cities and states. We have some in Fall River, I believe, and they're all throughout the state of Rhode Island. This is working directly with the fire department. And this is when somebody who's in crisis or decides that they want to receive treatment for their substance use, they can present at a fire station, and somebody at the fire station will immediately connect them to the needed services. Project Here for Youth in Schools is an online toolkit that schools can register for, and all the components are provided at no cost. So this is a curriculum that has been proven to work and has been made available to selected schools through a grant application process. And then sandboxes, this is a simple one that's in a lot of other towns as well. These are boxes that can be placed in any building, inside, outside, that contain naloxone, information about the Massachusetts Good Samaritan law, and directions for how to administer naloxone. As we all know, that's a safe drug that reverses overdoses. There's no side effects. There's no danger to people who use it if they are not overdosing. So we want naloxone to be as accessible as possible.
Okay, so as I said before, that we're expected to report what we're doing and how we're utilizing the funds. And so that is one of the areas that an advisory committee or the Board of Health, being part of an advisory committee, would be happy to support and help with the reporting. So we're not asking to control the money. We're asking to help in the decision-making process and how it would be used, but we're willing to do some of the necessary paperwork and things that have to be done in order for us to continue to receive funding. I want to make note as well that in the Herald News today, and I received actually the press release from our Senator Rodericks about the opioid settlement funds and how they're being used in Fall River. And they are providing money to the public schools, and they developed an advocacy fund, which was money used to directly support people who have addictions or family members who may be grandparents taking care of their grandkids because their parent is addicted and they no longer have custody, that kind of thing. So those are Fall River. What they did, though, was they spent $100,000 on a company to come in and do what we're saying we will do for free.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, it kind of ties in with that. First of all, mental health is a huge issue, so hopefully we can address it. Do you know if we can get any money toward a consulate part-time at the schools?
I believe that that would be a great possibility. They have a lot of language in the abatement that addresses schools and our kids. And they even talk about mental health services that might lead to addiction. They don't have to be addicted, but it may be issues that will potentiate use of opioids or any substances. So they give, if you have time to look at this, they do a wonderful job describing how the funds can be used. And that's one of the first things I thought of, because I have a relationship with the adjustment counselors at the school. So, and I think that would be a wonderful first step.
And there's a lot of inspirational, motivational speakers out there right now because the problem is so bad. The other question I was going to ask you is, you just said we're going to do it all for free. You're allowed to have some administrative help, I would think, right?
Yes, and so I believe part of it is there can be money for administrative costs, right? I'm not anticipating that an advisory committee is going to really have costs, especially if, say, on the advisory committee, one person from fire, one person from school department, one person from the Board of Health, and people in the community. And we actually have a couple of people from the community that are here that have expressed interest in participating. I don't know if they'd be allowed to speak at this point, but.
Yeah, well, I would just meant something like Michael Burris does. All the communities get together, and it's a smaller amount, that they just make sure your paperwork's right, and we go forward, so we're following that $35,000 rule, et cetera, because you know how the government can be with paperwork, so.
Right.
Okay, very good.
Can I
Thank you.
just ask a question, though? So, can you talk a little bit about, so the select board, like who, I'm trying to understand the role of the Board of Health and the role of the select board and where this committee fits in, right? So, is this group, are you suggesting a group that's reporting to the Board of Health, or are you talking about a group that's reporting to the select board, or like
The
how are
select
you
board.
envisioning this?
We would report to the select board because you guys have the purse strings. We don't have control or access to any of that money. We have zero access. So our role would be to, I envision doing some focus groups where we open it up to people in the community and say, what do you think would be the best way to utilize these funds to help? And then have people give their input. And then as a committee, then say, how can we organize these to present it to the select board as best practices, and hearing from our community what they want. You know, I think that that's important. Hearing that 45 people have died since 2015 of overdoses in Westport, that's reported. There could be more. And in the collaborative, which that Olive is not the director, but the coordinator of, we are higher than any of the other communities. The next one is Freetown at 22 people, 22 deaths. We have 45 deaths. So, you know, it bears some thought. But my answer to that is we would report to the select board. The select board may decide, I think it would be wonderful to have someone on the select board as part of the committee. But that's, you know, again, your call on how you want to do that. But I think that it's important that community have input, and this is one way to do that.
Did you state the makeup of the committee? Did you send us anything on the makeup?
I did not. I did not. I did not. But I did say in my letter to all of you that, that it would be certainly safety is anybody in safety. So, and in the school department, I believe I said school department.
Craig?
I'm attending an MMA Zoom type of workshop on settlement strategies and an overview. So I probably will have just gotten half of it, but on Thursday. So.
Yes, I am as well, and I believe, are you, Jim?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so, and I think Tanya signed up for it too. But, yeah, so, you know, I think, no, we're trying to get organized and try to understand it, and then try to utilize these funds.
In the collaborative, are we with everybody else, or are they ahead of us in their plans and their committees and so on and so forth?
So some of the communities are ahead of us. Some of the communities were given full access to the funds immediately upon receipt, and the Board of Health was able to do whatever they wanted with them. So some of the towns in the collaborative have use those to do Narcan trainings for the public in their towns and to just give away as much Narcan as possible. They've installed those sandboxes that I was talking about earlier. Another community in the collaborative has partnered with a harm reduction center that's located in a church, and they fund a lot of the harm reduction work that they do there. So that's providing Narcan, fentanyl test strips, counseling, connection to services, even things like food and, basic hygiene, things for people who just, are really struggling. So,
And I think one of the important things is many of the select boards have given the money to the Board of Health to manage it. And that's not happening here. I'm not sure why, but I respect that there are decisions that need to be made, and the select board needs to make them. But the Board of Health hasn't been offered that opportunity, so that's why I'm here.
But do the other communities have advisory committees that advise their select board in these matters? They just do it?
some of them do, some of them just have their Board of Health managing that, but it's a recommended best practice to have the community advisory board. One of the things that we say in harm reduction work is nothing about us without us. We want the community to be involved, specifically people with lived experience, people in recovery, even people in active addiction, people who have lost family members. They have seen what works and what doesn't work for them, and those voices really need to be heard.
So these other, if I may, communities, they're not interested in having an advisory board? They don't think they need it? You don't think it has value? I mean, what are the motives for the other? This is the best practice is to have an advisory board. Take it. They don't. Some don't. I'm just curious as to why they don't.
I think some of them feel as though their boards of health are the advisory committee. They feel like they have enough experts. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I also am not in charge of all of those towns. I can't tell them what to do. So,
But could that be just as effective as having an advisory board?
I don't think so. No.
Well, and unless,
Simply put, no.
well, unless you have someone like me on the Board of Health who has the experience and the background in mental health and addiction services, who believes in community input. So I think that, in our town's case, I think that would work. But if you don't have the expertise, I don't know how many boards have someone who has the background that I do. So that makes it easier.
Well, and for example, Freetown, they're the one that's working with the Harm Reduction Center. They have that one place that is very localized that provides most of the services in Freetown. So they work directly with the faculty or, the employees of the church and the volunteers, and they kind of act as the advisory committee in that way. So there are a lot of different ways to do it, but I know that like Fall River, New Bedford, a lot of the surrounding larger towns have advisory committees. And that is definitely what I would recommend.
I think it's really important to have conversations and having a separate committee lets you extract that from the regular board meetings. And, you can still make it work, but I would be in favor of, just like we had with this offshore wind charter, I think if we're going to create a new group to do something, I think we really should have a charter that similar to the one we had that we just approved earlier, so that it kind of outlines what's the purpose, what's the scope, what's the membership entail. I think that would be really important to creating it. So my thought would be to ask them to come back with a proposed charter that we could then act on, but that's just me. I am really excited about making sure that we're having people participate in the conversation and having really open, I know there's a lot of people very interested in it.
Donna, can you ask Carol for the Veteran Service too, if she'd be interested?
Yes.
Being on it?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can certainly do some of that groundwork, that grassroots work as well. I've already got connections in the community. We have some here, if it would be okay if they could just come up and say a few things.
That's fine with me.
Valerie.
A little,
Just say
little
your
too
name.
short for this. My name is Allie Paul. I was born and raised in Westport. I now live in Fall River and work in Fall River. I am an addiction treatment specialist. I've been working in addiction treatment for the past 8 years. My mom is actually Nancy Paul, former CEO of Star in Fall River. So I'm, of course, quite passionate about making sure that Westport has the best care that it can possibly have. I myself don't work in Westport because we don't really have much for addiction treatment services in Westport, and it's certainly an issue. Again, being born and raised here, I've seen that we do have a drug problem in Westport that is totally unacknowledged, untreated. There's nothing there for it. So I really want to make sure that every single dollar that we have here that we've been granted is spent saving a life, because that's what it can do. Every dollar can go to be spent saving a life, and we should make sure that we're doing it with the utmost care, thought, and experience and opinions behind it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ally.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Valerie Bassett, live on Adamsville Road, and I worked for several years on an opioid overdose prevention initiative, a federally funded initiative in Brockton, and saw the effectiveness of a lot of the efforts to promote harm reduction and treatment and how that reduced the overdose death rate. Westport has a very high rate, and as Olive said, those numbers represent people, but I also think that this money is kind of blood money, because the money is here because of all the deaths, the unnecessary deaths from opioid overdoses and the mistreatment by companies who could make a lot of money off of opioids. So there's a sort of extra responsibility to spend this money in a life-saving and high impact and responsible way. So I always think that it's not regular money in a way. And the other thing I would just add is how important fentanyl awareness and fentanyl prevention, fentanyl test strips are. Basically all the overdose deaths, the opioid overdose deaths that happen now in Massachusetts are fentanyl-based. Fentanyl can be in any drug. There's cross-contamination. Kids thinking they're buying Adderall. It's really meth, or it might be contaminated with fentanyl. I work now at Bridgewater State University at the Wellness Center in Community Health and Prevention, and we do drug and alcohol education, among other things. And one of our priorities is making sure that students know about fentanyl. It could be in cocaine. It could be in your finals pills for those who do that. So we try to get test strips out there, raise awareness, as well as making naloxone as available as possible. So I'm interested in supporting or being on the committee or doing whatever it takes, because this is a passion, and these deaths can be prevented. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Paul. I'm the retired CEO of Star. Right now, I'm doing some consulting work for the United Nations and for Brandeis on healthcare quality around drug addiction, and looking at the financing of treatment, drug addiction treatment in the United States and the world. Westport has always had a problem, and 45 overdoses in that amount of time is not correct. Those may be people that died in Westport, but it's not the number of Westport residents that have died. I'm also very concerned about families and what we're going to do to help families recover with the person in recovery. So I would love to see some money spent on families, and also early education. And it's not necessarily, and I wanted to get this across, it's not necessarily doing drug education, it's doing educating kids on how to be resilient. And that's what you do in the early grades before you even talk about drugs. So those are some of the things that I think are important. I'm the proud mom of Allie Paul, who does open access for anybody in any of the region that walks into her organization and wants to be assessed for their mental health or drug addiction problems. So thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Anything else from the board? Anything else you guys So I'm suggesting that you come back to us with a proposed charter. Paula can send you the one we used for the offshore wind if you want a sample.
That would be great.
All right, anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you for your
Thank you very
time.
much.
Thank you for listening. And hopefully the people that are watching in the community will have a better understanding of what this money is about and for. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. The next item on the agenda is the town administrator report.
Yes, fairly short report tonight. Presidential election, obviously, is November. The town clerk has a very good website if anybody needs any information on the election. I'd ask anybody that hasn't maybe voted in a while, that's not sure where to vote, what precinct, that they contact the town clerk's office prior to the election day so that they can get that information. Early voting begins on Saturday, October 19th. The last day to register to vote is Saturday, October 26th. And obviously, the election is Tuesday, November 5th. And again, all this information is on the town website in the clerk's office, and she's got a very good website down there, so I would check that. We had a department head meeting last week. Carol Freitas and Paula have been working on updating the town's website. Carol kind of gave a nice presentation for all the department heads. Departments are working on updating their pages. We're hoping to get that online in the next couple of months. Michael Barris, he mentioned earlier tonight, he's working on the town's permitting software. They've recently, I think, worked with the assessor's office, and that data has been converted. And then the next step will be go to the building inspector's office and start getting that information entered. That's kind of the main office, the central point for all permitting. So, again, there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done to get that up and going, but we're behind most communities on this, and we need to get moving. Town Hall Annex Playground, I know Dana Stewart and the Recreation Commission have been working quite a bit on getting that playground up and running. If you look at it, it looks great. They're still waiting for the fence to be installed. I think the date for the fence was pushed back a week, so that's the end of September. The Recreation Committee is supposed to meet this week or next week to come up with an opening date, a grand opening. So they expect that to happen sometime in October. That's all I have.
Thank you. We have the minutes for September 9, 2024.
I read them, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. The report on the bill warrant.
Madam Chair, the bill warrant was quite tame this week. Well, it's every 2 weeks, actually. And $1.5 million. I didn't see anything there that was out of order by any means, and I didn't see any huge items this month. So a lot of it was routine, and that's a reasonable amount that we're looking at. So all is well.
Excellent, thank you. Next, we have liaison committee reports or suggestions for future agenda items. So, Craig?
We did meet last week for the Affordable Housing Trust. We are releasing an RFP for parcels of land that could be used to develop affordable housing. We're looking ideally 30 parcels, but also looking at combinations of properties that could be bordering wetlands and using that as a buffer for that. And we'll wait to see what we have before we can decide which way to go going forward.
Thank you. Dick?
The only meeting I attended was the Council on Aging. I was there as the liaison from the Select Board. We discussed that personnel issue that was resolved earlier. Other than that, it was a routine meeting, so I have nothing else to report.
Thank you. Steve?
I've been stuck in jury duty, so there was one meeting, bike and pedestrian, that I couldn't make, but otherwise than that, I hope to get back in the saddle, still serving.
I did attend the meeting for the, signing the contract for sewer and water, for water on Route 6. Jim, when's the start date on that?
Supposed to start the middle of October. We're still waiting for the permit from Mass DOT for the street opening permit.
Okay, what exactly is the issue with that?
Just getting it through the process with Mass DOT. They had questioned, so at the end of the water line, we have these blow-off meters, or blow-off we'll release water so that the water is not sitting in the pipe for an extended period of time. We got a call from them yesterday, on Friday. They have concerns about letting that water go into their drainage system. So we're trying to schedule a meeting with them. We contacted them again today. Hopefully, we can meet with them the next day or two to work out that situation. I think that's pretty much it. They had a question on one of the hydrants that was resolved, and a couple of questions on the patching. When we sent the plans to it, showed the sewer information as well, so they wanted expanded patching for the water connections to cover the sewer trenches that we weren't doing. So we've reduced that down to just the sewer, which is a considerable
water.
saving. Just the water, yes, which is considerable savings. We're also looking at alternatives as to where we could also discharge the blow-off water if we cannot tie into the state system. And I say the state system, it goes into the state drainage system, but then the state drainage system goes into our system. So ultimately, it goes into the town system. So it's a relatively small amount of water in comparison to stormwater. So if you get a rain event, it's a significant amount of water going into that catch basin as opposed to the little bit of water that we're putting into that basin on a daily basis.
Yeah, but Mass Highway doesn't allow you to put any water into that.
And that's what they said. They would have to give an exception to the town, and they were considering it.
And they do have some drainage updates at the end where that's going, so I'm sure they're concerned with that. But, so this utility access, which would be the water utility access, what entity applied for this permit? I mean, imagine Roger's working on it, right?
Roger, it's going through Kleinfelder Engineering.
Okay, so who's gonna sign off on the permit?
It'd probably be the town. I'm assuming it'd be the town. That's what we had to do for the other one because it's our system.
For what other one?
Coastal Healing.
Okay, but you incorrectly, Tim King, not you, I'm sorry, I'll correct myself, incorrectly put highway in front of that, which the utility and water should be the select board, so we should be signing off on that permit.
I can certainly make that happen if you want.
No, I mean, that's the way it has to be. I mean, that's kind of, we have, so the coastal healing permit, I also attended that meeting with Mass Highway. It's also hasn't been striped yet, and it needed to be striped right away. So that's another issue where because it was incorrectly applied for, it fell through the cracks.
So are you suggesting this should be a future agenda? I feel like we're quizzing Jim on something that he's like a.
No, I'm not suggesting.
So are you suggesting it should be on an agenda that we need to
No,
talk about this?
well, what I'm suggesting is I did try to get an infrastructure oversight committee meeting as soon as possible so we could discuss this, because the other issue that's coming up, people are looking to tie into the water, and we have no procedure for them.
So it sounds like you are proposing that we have a agenda.
Well, again, I'm proposing, I asked Steve if we could have an infrastructure oversight committee meeting, and he told me that through Maury that we couldn't. So that's why I'm asking these questions, because how are we going to deal with the permits? I mean, the water's coming in, we're going to...
What I'm saying to you is that we're not prepared to discuss this, but if you would like to put it on a future agenda item.
I'm discussing what we can discuss, and if we applied for a permit, which we applied for a permit in the past, wrongly from the former town administrator.
But what I'm saying to you is you've got a lot of content here that's very specific that we need some preparation for. So if you would like to talk about this at a
I don't understand what the preparation is. We're in this process.
You're pop quizzing Jim on something that none of the rest of us know anything about, right? You are.
I'm not pop
So
quizzing.
I'm not suggesting
This is
that you
what's
shouldn't
going-
talk about it. I'm
Shauna, this is what's
suggesting-
going on, and I'm just questioning it because I don't,
Sounds like
the
you have
procedure's
questions
incorrect. I
about
mean,
this. You're asking for it to be on a future agenda. Let's.
I have one question right now. So when we went out to bid for the sewer and water, and we used the same design, so I'm getting, what I'm hearing is I'm hearing that our water permit, the utility access is not ready yet. Well, it was ready when we went out to bid. Nothing's changed.
Not for that section.
Jim, when what went out to bid was everything out of Route 6.
Mr. Soares, you're I'm happy to put this on a future agenda item so that we can prepare to answer these questions. But what we're doing right now is asking a
Well,
bunch of questions.
since we couldn't get an infrastructure oversight.
I'm not in charge of the Infrastructure Oversight Committee, but I am in fact in charge of the agenda for this meeting. And if you would like to
and you're also
request
the
that this
chair
be on the
of the
agenda
water.
of this meeting,
Right.
then I'm happy
So on the
to
next
do
meeting,
that.
could we have an infrastructure meeting to
No,
discuss?
but we
permit procedures?
can discuss these questions related to the project that you have. We're not having an infrastructure oversight meeting, but if you give us the topics you want to discuss.
Permitting for the water that's going in right now.
Okay, great. So we'll have an update on the water project. It seems like you want an update on the water project so that we can go look.
I don't
so
need
you
an
have more
update on the
questions.
water project. I understand it went out to bid. We have an issue because our utility access permit is incomplete.
update
And we
on-
have nobody working on that.
You want
And
an
it
update
belongs
on
to this
permitting,
board.
what this-
So I want this board to take action on the utility
Then
access.
excellent. Let's put it on an agenda.
Oh, I'm asking you. Okay, do that.
Okay, we are. We're going to put an agenda, an update on the water project and the permitting questions that he just talked about, and anything related to the questions that he just had. Is that clear enough to get some materials together?
Yeah, and infrastructure, did we figure out if we can do it the 30th or not, October 30th?
Maury was looking at that, I don't know.
Yeah, Jim and Maury both have alternating vacations this month, so we were looking probably at the end of, we were gonna have the second week
But
of
we can
November,
put it
we're trying
on,
to
we
get it
can put it
early.
on for October 7, or I think we have a meeting October 7 or October 28, right? Our next meetings. Would you
Yeah.
like it on October
Yes.
7?
Yeah.
All
I don't
right.
know, he won't,
I
he's
won't
not
be
gonna be
here
here.
on the 7th.
You're not going to be here on the
Right,
7th?
that's why we have infrastructure within the next 2 weeks.
All right, so you're not going to be here till the 28th.
That's correct.
Is there somebody that can speak to the questions that Mr. Soares had besides you? Is there somebody else that could speak
Well, I
to those
guess Roger
questions?
could, right?
We could probably bring in Roger or Kleinfelder.
So would you prefer to 28th when we have Jim, or would you prefer that we ask Roger for the 7th?
I'd like to have Roger for the 7th.
Okay. Paula, could you please reach out and see if they're available? Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I have one more question because, and the town administrator's report was kind of short. So the water billing that's going, how did that work out?
So the last I heard with the water billing with Fall River, I had spoken to Paul Furland from Community Maintenance or Community Utilities, and he was in general agreement that, based on what we had discussed previously, that they were going to prepare an agreement based on what the board had discussed at the last executive session.
So we're waiting for the agreement.
We're waiting on them right now.
Well, I know, they have a meeting tomorrow on that, so that's what I was concerned about, what that meeting was
Who's that?
about. City Council.
I wasn't aware of that.
One of the councils put a resolution together to address it.
All right, anything else? All right, there was a Climate Resilience Committee meeting, which I did not attend, so I don't have an update on that. None of the other committees that I'm on have met. Anything else from the
Yeah,
board?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
What about the broadband? When's that contract starting?
There is no contract and no thing proposed.
Didn't we vote to, you had a $250,000 grant and they voted for $50,000 for the.
Oh, you mean the fiber project, the loop project? I don't actually know what their status is, but we can put that on the
Has
agenda
the
too.
contract been signed?
I don't know. Has the contract been signed? That last.
Question,
loop.
I don't know.
That last loop. We'll get an update and we can
Did it
put
go
that
out
on
to
an
bid?
agenda. We'll put that on agenda.
Thank you.
So let's put that on for October 7 too. All right, anything else from the board before we go to the public? Okay, comments, statements from the public.
A follow-up question to.
Can you just say your name?
Carrie Cunha. I have a follow-up question about the runoff water situation. I know the state had a plan to fix it, and it was put on hold. I'm wondering if that's going to, since the water and sewer is, for the foreseeable future, not in the future, is the state going to come in and still do that to the roads, the surfaces? Annie?
What do you want to know? What was the question?
About the state and their plan to fix runoff water?
Stormwater
The
runoff?
biggest contamination of our water, this runoff water, we were told.
I have not seen the recent plans of you. Nothing's been presented to IOC.
Nothing's been presented to my office as far as stormwater plans for Route 6.
Right.
They are proposing to do a corridor plan, which I'm sure would include drainage, but that's a ways out, and I haven't seen any specific designs.
So which plan is on hold with them. They were waiting for us to get the water and sewer together, and then they were going to be completed together.
Yeah, I don't know if they were waiting for us specifically. They're way off in the process. Well, I say way off. It could be 2 years, could be 10 years. I haven't seen any. They normally go through a 25%, 75%, 100% design. They have not done a 25% design. They had a conceptual type plan that they were working with Serpent, but I haven't seen anything beyond that. I don't know if,
No, I think you might look into it, because I mean, I was told when we had that, when I had that issue on the project at the end over that they have a design complete, but they didn't go for the funding yet because we were holding them up. That's what the word was.
that I can check. The design's done.
That's it.
Anything else? I just encourage the public, if you want to get involved, there's a number of boards, committees, vacancies. Even if it doesn't look like there's a vacancy, please talk to somebody. We can probably find you a place. We are going to go into executive session in a minute, but we're going to conduct no business after executive session, only to adjourn. Was there any topic under 48 hours that we need to discuss?
It's at the back of the file.
Oh, yes. We're just notified by the Division of Local Services that they provide a financial dashboard to communities if the select board vote to request it. It's a free service. They go through yearly filings with the state, and they come up with a nice financial analysis with spreadsheets and flow charts. And I just ask if the board would vote to allow me to request the services so that they provide the dashboard services to town of Westport. There's no cost.
Is there any downside?
I don't see any downside, no.
I move we approach the state to take advantage of their dashboard, development of a dashboard for financial services.
Second. Maybe we'll get the audit committee digging into this for us.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, I'm supporting this, of course, but does the Finance Committee need to weigh in on this and give their opinion?
I think they can use the information. I think the information's there. They just kind of pretty it up and put it in a presentation form for us to look at.
That doesn't answer the question.
I don't think they need to.
Well, as a courtesy, I mean, we work with them, maybe they'll have some insight into this, maybe they've looked at some others like this. I don't think it's ever come up before, by the way, but like I say, I support this, no question, but I was just wondering.
I can certainly let them know.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. That's enough.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to allow, to have Jim request the, whatever that is, the dashboard.
Dashboard.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you, Jim. We're going to go into executive session. So I will entertain a motion pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, where the chair declares an open meeting will have a detrimental effect to A, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for Westport Permanent Firefighters Association Local 1802, and approve the minutes of September 9, 2024.
So move, Stephen Willett.
Second, Richard Brewer.
All in favor?
Andy Saws aye.
Aye, Steve Willett.
Aye, Shawna Tees.
Aye, Richard Brewer.
Hi, Craig Dutra.
All right, we are in executive session.